that we tow them away because usually some smaller farmers buy these old and used equipment and they can use them for many, many years. But we are replacing them with new ones every 5 years or so because there are, well, it's that time period when it's economical for a large company and a large farm to use them. And if somebody is buying them used from us, they still can work with them many years because, like I said, we are putting maybe 1,000 hectares in a year into them, and a small farmer with 100 hectares or so will put that 1,000 hectares into them maybe 3, 4, 5 years. So it's really not that bad, but it's interesting to see how the newest, and I'm not necessarily saying it's the best, but it's convenient. All these modern and new equipment we see around here every day. Yeah, Roger. So yeah, I'm interested in that one. Combine harvester that you were talking about there, and just an people, you guys do these things at the rate on TV there, and the money is a lot of John Deere's about, when I was working at the place that I did work at, they were all Matthew Ferguson stuff. And, you know, I just know when they were buying stuff, they spent with that volume. They extended it to but even a problem is, in this world, the money you have to spend on them. I'm talking to a guy here a couple of days ago there, and talking something similar. And he was saying they've got all these combines, they're all automatic, and you don't need anybody inside working at all. Just to see some of these contracts around them, and just for some sake, let them something went wrong. And he says, yeah, John, he says, these ones are not going to any driver inside them doing all the things. There's been a couple of times when one of them explains when, you know, the equipment didn't work and hold up and kept on going with it. Yeah, roger that, Josh. It's exactly like that. So all these modern equipment is stuffed full with all that fancy electronics, and if they go wrong, it's a hell of a sum to pay for them because it's expensive like hell. So mostly here in Hungary we like to use either the old, the MPZ, the old Russian tractors, which are still unbeatable because they are cheap as dirt and they can take a hell of an abuse. So if somebody is really on a budget, they are still thinking in those old but very strong and reliable Russian machines. But on the other side, if you like to go a little bit more modern, it's, in my experience at least, it's old John Deere's and maybe the Caterpillars, the new Caterpillar tractors, not necessarily the tracked versions because Cat is manufacturing them with tires now as well. But those are the two brands that are working the best for us because I work with Kris, IH's and Matthew Ferguson's. I work with New Holland's and I work with John Deere's, and the thought, the engineering behind the John Deere is more suitable for us. Although it's expensive like hell if you have to repair anything on them. And basically all the harvesters here in Hungary, or most of the harvesters, are coming from Kris, the German manufacturer, because they are the best suitable. John Deere is not that strong on the harvester harvester side, but I do believe I see the second most of them on the fields after class. So it's really interesting to see, but all these fancy electronics and all these modern engineering stuff they put in there, it's a hell if you have to repair anything. And we just bought a new harvester this year, a Cost Lexion 660, and we are only allowed to make basic maintenance on the harvester, so greasing the necessary points and stuff, but we can't even change the oil and the oil filters anymore in the engine, because if you do that and not the service guys are doing that, you can lose the warranty. And quite frankly, changing an oil and the oil filter is not something you have to be a mechanical genius, but we are not even allowed to do that, because all the service guys will have to arrange for that, or you use the warranty, or you lose the warranty. Yeah, roger that. We don't see too many of them around here, but I'm quite familiar with them. A friend of mine are having basically a whole fleet of them, and they are very, very reliable stuff. But from coming from the old communist era, a lot of people, if you want to think cheap, reliable, and tough material, are still using the old MTZs, the Mike Tango Zulu tractors, which are basically made. I don't even think that it's made in Russia anymore. It's probably more like Belarus or something like that. But they are quite reliable, and for smaller tasks, somewhere around to 120 horsepower, 80 to 120 horsepower maybe, they are really something to consider, even if you have a more modern fleet of machinery at your hand, because they are so reliable, and they can take quite a lot of abuse if the guy who is operating them maybe not on the private side, and I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings, but it can happen, especially with some of the old drivers coming from the old coal era, when they got used to that everything is common and they didn't have to look too much after their own equipment, and that is a bit of a downside of the old ex-communist era, the old communist era, but hey, we cannot really do too much about it. can see that here in Hungary as well. So the tractors being so modern and stuff, and I'm actually not that old. I'm 32, but the new generations coming after me, I can see that literally, as you said, children of ages between, well, I don't know, 10, 15 years maybe, that they are perfectly able to drive and manipulate all those large machinery, because they never knew a day when there wasn't a computer or the internet around, and all those simulators and stuff. They are moving pretty confident with those large machinery. Of course, they cannot really do anything with the mechanical side if something goes wrong, because they are quite not fit to it, and they shouldn't be. So I'm not talking about that, but. Just driving and handling and manipulating with those large machinery and large equipment, they can move actually a lot more confident than some of the guys from my age or even older, because they got used to all those computers being around, and there is no more gear shift lever, just you flick some small switch if you want to shift the gears up and down, or either the whole system just runs fully automatic, like some of the fans and the Ferguson does. So it's really interesting to see how these young children literally can handle those large machinery. I remember that when we were young in elementary school, and we only had Commodore, what was that, C64 or something like that, I don't even remember. And then those old IBMs with about 256 or something like that was the unit number for those old computers. And exactly what you say, that we were, well, growing up with the computers, growing with us basically, but it was pretty something when we were able to access the internet from the school, because it wasn't really common to have internet at home, and those larger and larger computers came in, and I am exactly the way as you say. I can use the damn thing, but if anything goes wrong,